What is the best conversation menu to really connect with others?
Well, I have written conversation menus and I organize conversations in many countries. Conversation is a meeting for me of two individuals who exchange their intimate thoughts and their opinions and their prejudices. And so you get to know somebody more or less, not completely. I cannot have a good conversation with you unless you tell me about yourself. That will cause me to have new ideas
Yes.
about myself also. And that is a conversation where we are each trying to clarify our ideas. When I talk to people, I do not interview them, unlike journalists. And unlike psychiatrists, because I go to people because I want to understand the world.
Yeah.
I therefore wish to talk about my views, but then also to have their views.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is an exchange. And I give as much as I take. And so after this, what you are interviewing me now because you're a journalist, I have to ask you questions. You have to answer my questions. And then this will be a useful experience as opposed to a sort of professional activity.
Have we forget to talk and to listen?
Not forget, because we never knew how to do it. Past people used to try to persuade other people to be of the same opinion, to order other people, to make people obey. And you had to be very careful what you said to people who had power, because they could then cause you trouble.
Yeah.
Therefore, we did not talk too much. We were afraid to talk. And we're still very afraid to talk in many places. And that is why I have, I'm saying that the people who say that we have lost the art of conversation don't know what the conversation in the past was like. It was showmanship and so on. We have to invent a new conversation. And that is meaning that we move from the public sphere to the private sphere. Mm-hmm. Because in the private sphere is the only place where you can be less afraid that what you say will be used against you. It's private life that one can make interactions and relationships. And what matters most to people today is their personal relationships, their family and their friends. And that is how you reconstruct society, by one-to-one, by small nanoparticles.
Can you describe yourself as the best listener in the world?
As the best what?
Listener.
No, I have never met everybody, so I cannot say I am best. But I am, as you say, I am curious and I am interested in what others have to say, for a simple reason, that in order to know what I think, I need to interact with other people. Whenever one hears something, one needs to express one's reaction in order that there should be a further reaction. Humans interact. They have things to say to each other, and they think. They need the stimulus of other people to think beyond their existing thoughts. If you just behave in a normal way, your conversations are filtered by your brain so that you listen only to the things with which you agree, and you don't listen to anything else. You remain unchanged, you remain a vegetable.
Wow.
And
that's serious.
You're not necessarily expressing everything in your head, but you're trying to discover what you think and what you could think. And there is it's something which you develop more skill as you become less shy about admitting your own weaknesses and so on. In work, you are discouraged from saying what you think because you may lose your job if you say too much. Well, I've had experience with talking to very poor people, homeless people. I've done portraits of about 75 homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
And what they say is, why do you want to talk to me? I'm nobody, I haven't got a job, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
But they are interesting. And I remember how we went to the worst school in Oxford, where the young people there are just receive the worst education, and they become labourers and they get no jobs and they just have no hope. And when we wanted to talk to them, they were very shy and they were afraid to talk. But we brought a camera and we said, hello, we're going to put you on television, you know. And we began talking, and the teacher said, we have never heard them talk like that before. Because at first they were afraid of strangers, you know, from the university talking to them. But they were very interesting. But it also showed the limitations of their imagination, in that they wanted to be football stars. That's the only thing they knew is football.
Mm.
So it is very interesting to find people who are living a limited life. And at the end of it, you know, they said they were very pleased to talk to us because nobody had ever asked them such questions.
How did you get fascinated by the art of conversation?
Well, when I was young, I was quite a shy, studious young person passing examinations. And in fact, it was having friendships with women that made me, women in fact taught me to speak. And women came to talk to me when I was a young professor, and it was friendship. It was not about sex or anything. It was just they would like to talk to somebody interesting, and that made me realize how it is possible for men and women to do something which they have not done before, which is to treat each other as sources of enlightenment. And then when I spent 20 years writing a book of 2,000 pages called The History of French Passions, and there I spent my time listening through books to people of every kind, and I wrote this book which caused great surprise because I was interested, I found interesting every category of society, from criminals to police to comedians to lovers to cooks to everybody. I wrote a history about every kind of person. And then after that, having studied the dead, I wrote a book about France, the living people in France, and I went around talking to them and I wrote a book called The French. And I was able to do that because my big book opened up to me many invitations. People of all kinds invited me, ministers and president and banks and everybody wanted to see why I looked upon them with a different eye. That's to say, people are interested in how you see them. They're interested only in themselves. And so, tell me what you think about me. And that is the question they want to know. What do you think about me? Do you think I'm clever? Do you think I'm stupid? And it's total absorption in oneself. And that, I think, was the great mistake of the 20th century, to encourage people to introspect. Who am I? Who am I? Instead of saying, who are you? I remember I put once a rich person with a very poor person, and it, it, it just almost destroyed the rich person.
How?
She was very moved, and she had never spoken to a poor person.
Wow.
And I myself I had a very good talk with a murderer who just come out of prison, and it was really very interesting. He was a nice man. He got drunk and he killed somebody.
Yes.
You know, and then in prison he learned how to read and write better. So everybody has got a story, and I think one of the limitations on conversation is people don't have the opportunity to talk to people different from themselves.
Yes. But
Talk,
is,
the rich are the worst prisoners of all. The rich talk only to the rich.
but is this because we choose to talk people that are like us, and that's because we are afraid to talk to different people?
Yes, and we don't create these opportunities. And with the rich, you see, I've met quite a lot of rich people, and I see how they're afraid that you want to take their money away. So they have to be careful.
Yeah.
As one of them said to me, one very rich man who goes and helps the poor, but he says you cannot become a friend of the poor because then they will take everything away.
What have you learned about human nature through your long-time research?
Now we are afraid of everything, and we have an insurance society in which we have to insure ourselves against the stable falling down and the house falling down and the lightning coming here and the water running out, and insure against our health, and insure everything has to be insured. And we are still afraid. We spend more money now on insurance than we ever spent on trying to get into heaven by paying the church some money.
What's the meaning of curiosity in your life?
Curiosity is what distinguishes human beings from all other living creatures. And if you are not curious, you are only living at 25%. And there is no limit to our curiosity, but it has to be a curiosity which is fruitful. It's no good just being interested. You then have to say, well, what else is possible? Perhaps now that there is room for a new idea of how people can not express a loyalty to one nation, but express an interest in people, individuals in many nations. You have to know an individual in order to free yourself from prejudices and racial prejudices and so on. Yes. That is a new way of relationship, and the passport is no longer satisfactory. It doesn't say anything about you. It says you have blue eyes. That's not important. What is important is what you have to say, what you have to contribute.
If you were a news producer today, what will be the most important news?
I think we have to put our attention to work, how people work. How people spend their time is the most important thing to them. That is to say, business is about buying and selling time. You have sold your time for a certain amount of money each day.
Yes.
And are you using your time to the best advantage? And that is the big question. So we really have to think again about how people work and whether they should spend all their time doing very stupid jobs, which just they do just for the money, not because they like it, but because it makes them better people. And we therefore have to think that what is the main problem is how you spend your time. And that is my news for today.
So how do you think we can reinvent the work so that people feel satisfied
Well,
and find meaning in this job.
yes. Well, I think increasingly people who are being educated are developing new ambitions and new aspirations about how they wish to spend their life. And that they do not wish to be, some people, quite a lot of people, but some say, perhaps a third or half, want a steady job just in order to have security. And I accept that this is so. But there are people who want more adventure, want to see many countries, want to have many different experiences. And the present, what I want in businesses is that they should take account of the fact that they're going to have more and more difficulty in recruiting people, energetic and inventive people, who are going to prefer to go into startups or to be to go into small organizations. I remember I talked to the CEO of one of Britain's biggest companies, and he said he no longer interviews candidates, they interview him.
Wow, that's an interesting approach.
Because they say, will you give us, 2 months holiday? Will you let us go here? Will you and we go to travel? And, if not, we're not interested in you. So there will be eventually a movement by young people. They have the capacity to choose the kind of work they want and to move between different occupations. If we're going to live 100 years, are you going to spend 100 years doing the same thing?
How do you see the future of work in the age of automation?
The age of automation has not just begun. When railways were introduced, when new machines for weaving cloth were introduced, people were also having rebellions to protest against automation. So we've had this forever. It's a normal thing. And there is a discrepancy between what technology does and what people want.
Yeah.
Many of the things that you are spending money on, you're buying your iPhone and so on, the iPhone can do all sorts of things which are not necessary and not important. What is it that you really want? And technology is concerned with, at the moment, is concerned with doing something which will produce a lot of money. And Silicon Valley has to produce money, and that is a criterion of a successful thing, with 1 million people who will pay to do something or other.
What's your opinion about the idea of basic income? Do you think that with this basic income, people would have more time to do the things they really want to do? And is it a good idea, actually?
No, I don't agree with it. I think we have to look more, we have to think about the technologies which would be necessary to give people food, clothing, and housing, which are the 3 basic needs for everybody. How can we make this more, producing this in more acceptable ways? Now to rethink the essentials of living, rather than saying, I'll give you some money and then you can go and get drunk. That is, it will still leave the inequalities and so on. The question is, why is it now that in order to buy a house, you have to spend 25 years, you have to pay for it for 25 years? Cannot architecture find some better way of living? All have to live in the city where everything is expensive. We have all these fields which are empty.
Yes.
Now increasingly we're going into the city. So we have to rethink our housing. We have to rethink the way we have clothes. We have to rethink what we eat, which is not at all intelligent at the moment. And most countries are now becoming obese and with diabetes and we're killing ourselves with what we eat. So instead of this financial solution, I want an intelligent solution.
What is a wasted and fuller life for you?
Well, it's one which does not have a result of use to others. And this is very difficult to find. How can one be useful after so many years in the world? And for me, the only way I can discover what I should be doing, is by discovering what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I spend so much time trying to discover the lives of people, and discover, for example, the lives of journalists. The lives of journalists are not satisfactory. You are working harder than you were 30 years ago. Your situation is more precarious than it was then. You are in a state of crisis because of the digital revolution. You are being forced to concentrate on increasing your circulation.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saying what you think, and the result is that some newspapers are rubbish and are disgusting.
Exactly.
And so how does one change the idea of what is a journalist? A journalist is theoretically the most wonderful profession, because you can ring up anybody and say, I want to speak to you. Yeah. And but in practice it's a real trouble.
What do you mean by saying that the origin of change now is the couple?
Yes, it means that if you and I talk, not for half an hour, but for a few days, a few months, a few years, we will have an influence on each other. Mm-hmm. And we will slightly alter our prejudices. And we will learn something which we would not have learned. And that will be these small changes are the important changes. And the big changes are superficial. If I pass a law to say that you all have to do this or that, it will not make a difference to you in the same way as an individual interaction. And that is why I talk about couples of the mind, because in the 20th century we exaggerated the value of sex as being a way of making people appreciate each other. And quite often sexual relations make people hate each other as well. And I think conversation can now, when it is honest and when it is about not just any conversation, but when it is about intelligent subjects, important subjects, that you do get an understanding. And with many people you need to go on talking forever. I talk with my wife and I still have things which I can't understand about her. We've been married for, I don't know, how many years? We've been married for 40 years or something. To understand another person is so difficult. Yes. And it reveals to one, what the complexity of being a human. And that's fascinating.
Yeah. Do you think that because today we have so many divorces, the reason for this is because we just don't listen each other, because we don't talk to each other?
Well, there's so many psychologists and so on writing about you should marry, and you should marry somebody like yourself, not like yourself.
Yes.
You should do that. Perhaps it's my own experience. I was friends with my wife for 10 years before we married. And she had boyfriends, and I had girlfriends, and we just talked. Mm-hmm. And we trusted each other, and then we gradually appreciated each other. And at the moment, the system is love at first sight, the romantic idea that you fall for somebody. Well, it is not. That is not the way for a long friendship. It is not about friendship. It is about physical attraction um, and I think the equality of women can only be based on more discussion between men and women, and more talk, and not about sex, but about friendship between men and women. And that is still a long way away.
Yes.
When I see somebody, the normal reaction of a man is to say, you are beautiful or not, or you're not beautiful or whatever. But the beauty only comes when you speak, and when you have something interesting to say. And when you're a beautiful person inside you, not outside you.
Yes. And the technologies are not making things easier today.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
What they're revealing is that people want friendship. And on Facebook they have all these friends whom they have never met.
Yes.
That is a desire for friendship, but it doesn't fulfill the desire.
You said that to be happy is to be blind. What does this mean in the age where everyone wants to be happy and where every kind of books try to sell us how to be happy?
Yes, well, I once wrote a book called Happiness, in which I imagined a young woman obtaining a visa to visit paradise. And she went and visited all the people in paradise and said, are you happy? And all the people she met in paradise were real people. It was a historical,
Okay.
solid information. And I saw that most of the people in paradise were too tired to be happy. They just wanted to sleep. And I think most people are now too tired. Life is very strenuous, and so your ambition is quite limited. And so what happiness means is how to get out of the stress of life, how the increasing demand for efficiency. So all our organization is making life a struggle against the demands of get more money and so on. And even if people get what they want, there's still other things which they don't know about, and their lives are not complete. And so you might say you're very happy, and you have got 2 children and a dog and a house, and that is all you want from life, but you're only half alive, and you haven't been fully alive. And it seems to me that happiness is a dream, and you cannot be happy if you see that in most of the world there is so much misery and so much poverty and so much stupidity and viciousness and oppression. How can you be happy if you think only about yourself? This is not happiness, this is illusion.
So, which is your way to be happy? By talking to others?
I don't try to be happy, because when I see all these millions of people whose homes have been destroyed and they have done nothing wrong, and then an airplane comes and drops a bomb on their home, it is absolutely tragedy. It's ridiculous. How can anybody in the world be happy with what is going on now?